the Palace of Speed. Early on in this race.
The Spec-5 World Tour continues to round 9, Mount Panorama, Bathurst, and I, for one, personally couldn't be more pleased. Joined by someone a little less familiar with the mountain, David Haynes, with Devon Peters and Michael Derby today for Spec-5 World Tour coverage on HJBC. I think at least outside of Australia, it is a very well-known and well-loved track.
I'll have you know that I know the walls of this track very well. I think I've hit every one of them, and I think I've hit them all 3 or 4 times.
That's fantastic. So 6.14 kilometers long, 3.82 miles. I feel like the official measurement's actually like 6.2-ish around here, but the elevation change is what this place is known for. From the top of the mountain all the way down to the bottom. More elevation change than Spa-Francorchamps.
And
not as much as the Nürburgring. The highest point to lowest point on the Nürburgring is slightly more than here.
Hey, you gotta measure against goals that you can achieve, you know?
Rise over run though, like the Nürburgring's such a long track that, you know, I'm sure you're teaching kids about rise over run. And we're into qualifying though for the 45-minute race that's coming up in the Spec-5 World Tour. It's the iRacing League that strives for competitive and clean racing in one of the most popular race cars anywhere in the world and everywhere in the world, the Mazda MX-5.
Yeah, and a perfect track for this little car, you know? Tight and twisty. And when they paved it in 1938, I think they were imagining, you know, a car about this big, not, you know, those honking BMWs traveling around this thing.
When they paved it in 1938, they were actually thinking about motorcycles. Some of the first racing around here was motorcycle racing, which doesn't happen anymore because we're not the Isle of Man.
Yeah, it was nice to see you folks, progress beyond those Western European savages out there on the Isle of Man. And join us civilized folks.
So with qualifying underway in this format, 15 minutes, the drivers all get 4 laps. We saw everyone squeeze 4 laps into their 15-minute qualifying at Road America, which was just slightly longer than here. So I reckon no dramas for everyone who left pit exit relatively early on in the session. Andrew Gilliland was the open class winner last round. Michael Coates won in pro last time out. So they are definitely drivers to watch here at Mount Panorama. And we are getting the start of the first flying laps for Andrew Gilliland and for many of the other drivers. HJBC.live has live timing. If you want more detailed information about your friends, your teammates, any particular driver you want to keep up with. And at the moment, I think Michael Coates qualifying's looking strong. That's his outlap. So Michael Chase is the man to watch. Keeping an eye on the numbers as well. You can see that Orlando Herald still leads open class. And there are many great supporters of the Spec-5 World Tour with their gold, silver, and bronze numbers.
Yeah, and a couple of those numbers pointing at the points leader. Of course, Coates is out there in red, and we got Orlando Herald wearing the blue numbers right now, leading the open class. Good showing from Herald yesterday, but Andrew Gilliland really stole the show with his finish. Not yesterday, Tuesday, but a lot of broadcasting this week. Watching Coates as he goes over the hill, though. Is that Coates? I might be getting the wrong red car. This is Chase going over the hill. You get to see that really tight camera angle there at the Dipper.
Dipper, I hardly know her. Michael Chase coming to the elbow. And your exit out of here is everything for the very long run down Conrod Straight all the way to the Chase. High speeds. You pick up plenty of speed early on in the straight with the downhill. Flattens off a little bit, and that's where the slipstream becomes super, super powerful. Heading over just the little crest here underneath the signage and then still down into the Chase for Michael Chase. I've got the wrong timing up to see exactly what his peak speed was, but you really start topping it out there, and slipstream does an incredible amount for you, so long as you've stayed close through the twisty bits, the real street course feeling bits over the top of the mountain. Bottom of the mountains felt like a permanent race course for decades now at Mount Panorama, though.
Watching Michael Chase come around here on the final corner, a couple purple sectors in there, and that'll be good enough to put him on the top for now. 2:34.8 on the first lap. Pretty solid, but still about a second off the best outright that we saw in open qualifying. So that might have been with a little bit of drafting help around here. Drafting going to be a big factor tonight, I got to think.
Zeus Dalston clearly enjoying Mount Panorama as the open class driver is currently third in qualifying, only just behind Ronnie Coates, who's only just behind Michael Chase. And we're on to the second flying lap. You have to run up Mountain Straight and then tipping it into turn 2, Griffin's Bend, trying to use all of the camber through there. But Michael Coates, his first flying lap sends him to the top. And you know what, Devon? It's not even close.
Yeah, 0.7 of a second will do that to you. And that was an impressive lap from the green and yellow car there. I was just going to remark on the open class leader there. It's nice to see a Canadian leading this Australian race in the open class. Where's the best Australian driver, Haynes?
At work.
I'm going to watch Michael Coates working his way up the hill. So
your next challenge is the cutting. A little kink on the way in. braking and then trying to tip into this really tight corner, carrying speed. Important in lower horsepower cars as you're still climbing uphill. So every little bit of momentum becomes very important. Same across this crest and change of direction here. Just trying to float as much speed as you possibly can. Series of left-handers where the wall is always so close on the exit. And then staring at the distance over the hill, trusting that the circuit's still there over the crest as you dip over Skyline into the S's. Once again, heading towards the dipper. One personal best sector on this from Michael Coates. Rui Coimbra goes to the top of qualifying with the lap that he has just completed.
That was a quick one. 2:33.8. He's the first guy to break into the 33s with that lap, and I believe that ties the fastest lap in qualifying. Sure enough, it even in practice that we saw, in fact, it actually surpasses it by about 0.005 of a second. I think the track is looking a little faster right now. 66 degrees in the air, 7-mile-an-hour winds, and these guys are making it work for them.
A couple of other drivers complete lap times and don't go close to what Rui Coimbra's done. So Michael Chase, Zach Burke, Andrew Gilliland have all been over the line. So is Ronnie Coates. Michael Coates is just a little bit behind them on his run plan here. So we'll see if he can jump up. One personal best sector, one purple sector. And out the final corner, a little bit of a slide past the Motorsport Museum. Coates improves in his 200th short of Rui Coimbra's lap, while Lincoln Fox is on a good one with some purple sectors, some personal best sectors. Rui Coimbra's got a purple on the lap that he's running right now. They are really starting to lay it out as they go through qualifying. I thought that lap was going to move Lincoln Fox further than it did, but there must have been a mistake with half a second lost in Sector 5, so I don't know if that's the chase or the exit of the elbow.
Hard to say. One guy who got a little bit wrong was Michael Coates when he came out through Hell Corner on the end of that lap that he just set. He ran it so wide he put 3 tires in the dirt, so that'll slow him down. He might be out of contention on this one. Checking back in with folks who are in contention though.
Coimbra's lap is so hot right now, and he's up the top and going quicker already with a bit of margin over most of the field, not much margin over Michael Coates. Big, really committed braking zone at the chase, a little bit of curb, change of direction, again then got it on the exit, putting the power down, go back around to the right, and then underneath the paddock access bridge to braking at the final corner at Murray's. You want to get close to that apex curb, but not get all over it. You can get a little bit of the exit curb, and for Rui Coimbra, he shaves another 0.3 off his best, and he's got more laps in the bag to work with as well.
Yeah, and that was a shocker. Honestly, that's a real fast lap from Rui, and we've seen him showing some pretty solid pace this season. He's had a couple good finishes. Let me see, he got a win. No, just a couple second place finishes so far this year, but he's definitely setting himself up for a good one tonight. Michael Chase crosses the line, and he's running quick, but he's not even in the ballpark. 2:34.2, and that puts him nearly 0.7 of a second behind.
Yeah, Zach Burke improved and stole that third place away from Michael Chase. Looks like Andrew Gilliland and Zeus Dalston from the open class are done, and Gilliland will be ahead of Dalston. Orlando Herald hasn't set much of a representative qualifying lap just yet. Now in 18th place, that 2:44 is about 11 seconds away from pole, and about 10 seconds away from, I guess, where you'd expect Orlando to be. Charles Vaccaro also in the open class today with Greg Mack. And Greg Mack is 17th ahead of Orlando Herald, and Charles Vaccaro hasn't been out in qualifying, doesn't have a time. Does he have a penalty?
Yeah, I'm not sure how he's ended up in that situation. I was following Rui Coimbra, and he had a hell of a slide through the dipper that time. Got me a little bit excited. I don't think that's going to be a fast one for him, unfortunately. Looking around,
Oh,
Lincoln
dropped half a
Fox.
second
Yeah.
there
Just
on this
Lincoln,
lap.
Lincoln Fox just set a purple sector 1 out there. So that's one to keep an eye on. No, it was yeah, it's still a purple sector, sorry.
It might have been, and then Coimbra, it's gone slightly quicker. This is tracking to an improvement though, and there's lots of sectors across the top of the mountain to help you measure your performance by.
I think it's how courageous you are in each individual corner.
That was courageous.
Yeah, it was pretty solid there. Didn't need all the track out there on the right through Skyline. This is an MX-5 after all.
Change of direction at the dipper, hoping that it grips and you can put power down towards the elbow.
A little bit ordinary through the top.
That was a bit wide of the elbow there as well, I think, which if it prevents you getting to throttle when you'd like, it is going to cost you a lot down the straight here. I like to point out this scan is from 2010, 2011 or something. There's a lot less ads for alcohol around the circuit now than there apparently was when iRacing came out here.
Yeah, it's all sports betting now, I bet.
And there's like spares box and a lot more super cheap auto. There's a lot more Repco super cheap auto than shown here. Let's see how Fox's lap goes, but I think the time did slip away somewhere around this lap. A few little places it was scruffy. The tires just maybe weren't gripping up as previous, and it goes to 6th though. Just a subtle improvement of a couple of tenths, jumps a handful of positions.
Yeah, he's got held corner down, but got a few more to do. Otis Adams coming now into the final corner. Had a pretty good time last time out, and a pretty good lap there. A 2:34.2 will get him all the way up to 5th place from 9th when he started the lap.
So most people are done with their qualifying and off the track, so there's only a few that are going to be able to take anything away from Rui Coimbra up top. It's Otis Adams, perhaps Ronnie Coates, perhaps Lincoln Fox. Orlando Herald completes another lap, getting closer to the pace we would expect. And here is Adams in 5th. Dropped to 10th through turn 1 and up the hill. Coimbra sitting on the lane and just waiting for time to run out, which it does, and gives him pole position. 45 minutes of racing for Spec-5 World Tour coming up now from the mountain, and this is how they will start. The front row, Rui Coimbra and Michael Chase. Row 2, Michael Coates and Zach Burke. Then Otis Adams and championship leader Ronnie Coates. Lincoln Fox, they're in 7th. Open class pole sitter Andrew Gilliland sitting in 8th, ahead of an all-pro row 5, Eugenio Polici and Kirill Bondar. And then behind them, Brian Chabelski. Next open class driver, Zeus Dalston. Got Geordie Fike, Sean Hayes, David Starb, Tom Aiton, Greg Mack, Orlando Herald, Charles Vaccaro for the other open class drivers. Herald, the blue numbers, is open class leader. And you can see all of our lovely Spec-5 World Tour supporters in gold.
Yeah, solid grid there today. 3 guys managed to crack the 233s and solid 234s all the way through the top 10. I betcha with times
Get
like
a load of that water tank.
What's a Banyula?
All right. Yeah. Short-ish formation lap here, grid just before the chase. You see that little fan stand thing to the left of them there?
Yeah.
been there. That's Robbo's house. Shout out. Well, it was, he sold it. But when he did own it, I did get a sick invite one year. Great spot to watch the cars as they barrel towards the chase. 300 kilometers an hour in qualifying. And yeah, super speedy. Got most of our grid now. They're ready to go. Around these large laps, like here, like Road America, you don't have as many options to pit as the shorter laps. So it's quite a narrow window of options as when to pit, only a couple of laps. And if someone else pits, you got to wait 6.2 kilometers before you can react to it.
Yeah, and it feels a bit like a long time when you're going out around this track in a car that's got a top speed of 110 miles an hour, you know?
So as a reminder, HJBC.live has the live timing for our broadcast, using all of the circuit to warm up, but the pace car will pull away from pole sitter Rui Coimbra. The field approaching final corner of Murray's onto the straight. Rui Coimbra is going to hold them. Green flag comes out. He doesn't preempt it. He doesn't jump it. We go on the green flag and we're heading down towards Turn 1, hell corner, cold tyres for all. Rui Coimbra still down the inside with Chase around the outside. Good run, I suspect, from Zach Burke there on the outside lane in red. Now going to look to push Chase up the hill towards Rui Coimbra, and it is up the hill. Great amounts of elevation change from the start-finish line all the way to the top of the mountain in the first half of the lap. It's something like 300, 400 feet.
Push up the inside there. Zach Burke giving a good shove to Michael Chase, shoves him all the way to the lead, and Zach Burke's going to follow through. It's hard to be on the outside, and he's losing spots, is Rui Coimbra. First into fourth as Michael Coates takes the inside as well.
And teamwork can make the dream work, especially uphill and into a corner like that where the inside is absolutely the place to be. A little bit of side-by-side through the cutting back there for your open class leader, Andrew Gilliland, as they battle with Lincoln Fox. I think Gilliland's pulled off a spot so far on this opening lap. Now right in behind Ronnie Coates as we go single file across the top of the mountain. Most of the field still all strung together. No Charles Vaccaro, so no qualifying, didn't take the start of the race. Just the 18 drivers right now. Gilliland looking really strong on the cold tyres right now. You have your top 5, then a little bit of space, then Ronnie Coates, then open class leader Andrew Gilliland.
Yeah, Andrew Gilliland's made a class for a youthful entry into pro class next season, I think, with the pace he's been showing lately. He's hanging out right there, and actually I noticed as I watched Rui Coimbra drop back from first to fourth, that he actually dropped back right in front of his teammate, Otis Adams, coming down the mountain here now together. So I wonder if the two of them had discussed that in their channel.
So here's the driver who was... No, I was thinking Rui Coimbra was the pole sitter. That's the driver just out front of Otis Adams. But those teammates can begin to link up if that's what it's going to take to move forward and challenge up front. Breaking through the chase we go, and Zach Burke still leading Michael Chase and Michael Coates.
Yeah, a little peek there from Michael Chase as they were going into the chase, but didn't follow through.
A lap completed and 18 more to go at the mountain.
Very clean first lap, it must be said.
Yeah, for a challenging street circuit, the way that it feels across the top of the mountain, pretty clean. But then you've got these long sections on Mountain Straight, on Conrod Straight, where they really can bump draft, slipstream, etc. And that's what we're getting. Our top 4 so close. And Rui Coimbra is looking to get down the inside here, and he might get all the way, you know. Bit of a squeeze between himself and Zach Burke. Coimbra was up the inside, but not all the way up the inside. Through all of that, Michael Coates begins to drop back. Ronnie Coates and Andrew Gilliland both get through on the way up to the cutting. taking a couple of positions from Michael Coates, is now back to 7th. Zach Burke retains the race lead, and Rui Coimbra got back up to 2nd place.
A couple passes deeper in the field, Kira Bonner had taken a spot from Lincoln Fox, but ends up in the trailing position after the chase, after the cutting. The line wasn't quite right, and Lincoln Fox took the inside again, and a little bit of a gap too. Now it's 2 packs. Looks like 1 through 8.
Shakur?
And 9 through 15.
And it's great racing, it's close racing, but all the drivers are still thinking long game about their fuel burn, about when their pit stop is. Do they pit early in the window? Do they pit late in the window? Is the slipstream helping them make pace, or is the traffic across the top of the mountain costing them time? And that's the calculus that you're trying to make on the fly, dependent on how aggressive the pack racing looks. It looks pretty pack racing at the moment as they get up towards their peak speeds, heading down the mountain. Lead changes as Rui Coimbra pulls in front. Now Michael Chase looks to go around Zach Burke. Can't quite get in and bump Rui Coimbra. They come to the kink of the chase, then heading into the big braking zone. Zach Burke strikes back. Coimbra goes around the outside for the lead. Burke gets a big ride of the curb and parks himself in front in 2nd place.
That was a confident maneuver. The spotter must have called out that he was clear, because he hit that curb and he slid all the way across the nose of Michael Chase there. That was good stuff. So just me, or is Zach Burke got the red of the NA Miata on his car compared to the ones around him?
It's not Sol Crystal. There's a lot of Sol Crystal red out there.
Yeah. Hey, there's only one good color on the Miata, so it makes sense.
I think for the ND, I'm not sure I've seen many other colors that I liked, but on an NA, I mean, they had British Racing Green as an option. They had the orange M edition or whatever it was called. There was
that on the
Mariner Blue. There's some options on the earlier ones that suit.
Yeah, I will give you orange, but I don't know, it's iconic. My favorite modification was when they put 2 black racing stripes on him and a V8 in him. That was the best ones. Anyways, maybe they didn't do the Monster Miatas down in Australia.
We had a special edition turbo before the Mazda Speed MX-5 hit the market globally.
Well, now I want one of those.
They arrived and then were modified locally by Mazda Australia and distributed through the dealers with a bit of boosty pressure. Coimbra is pulled almost a second over the top of the mountain, but you need to pull more than a second to stop this freight train from closing you down Conrod Straight, because Zach Burke, Michael Chase, Ronnie Coates, they will see Rui Coimbra just that 1 second ahead, and I don't think they'll be having any of it. Andrew Gilliland's got a bit of overlap with Otis Adams Jr. back there. You can see that as they head past the bed and breakfasts and the wineries.
Gilliland's got it glued to the line, and he's getting pushed wider and wider by Otis Adams. Luckily, the track gets a little wider there. He's got the inside into the chase. Late braking, and the preferred line. But Otis uses the track and more and holds the spot. Michael Chase is going to have a run here too.
Coimbra off the circuit. Coimbra's round. He's hit the wall from the lead. He's pushed too hard through the chase. Got a bad ride off the exit curb there. And now Zach Burke leads. He was 0.7 of a second clear. He was in clear air. We were trying to keep an eye on the battle, sort of 4th and 5th back there. But Coimbra, he runs wide. He runs wide the other side, gets the gravel, spins it back, and big hit on the wall, let's be honest.
Well, that's tough. Yeah, luckily for him, I think he kept the tire out of the wall, and it was just a little bit of chassis damage. It looks like it's driving pretty straight, but he hits pit lane anyway.
The fuel window. You wouldn't pit before the fuel window if you didn't have a meatball flag or some serious damage on that. That is a tough break for Rui Coimbra. Really strong qualifying. Was looking like he could maybe even pull away from the field, but he overdid it at the chase. Went off the circuit, hit the wall. Now this is the battle for the race lead. Zach Burke, Ronnie Coates, Michael Chase tucked in third, Otis Adams Jr. in fourth, and then you have Gilliland leading open class just behind in fifth. Still not out of touch yet, or out of time.
You might have seen Michael Coates in the background being a bit of a wild child in that green car. He ran so wide through Corey Bend there. He was on the wrong side of the curb on the exit and was headed there from about the first point of turn-in. But he managed to make the move stick around the outside of Kirill Bodnar, so I guess that's what counts. Bondar. I'm going to get it right, I swear.
Yeah, two-part epoxy Bondar. Is that how you're going to remember it, or is that just me?
Now we call it Bondo. No, wait, Bondo's a different thing.
That's a brand name, I believe.
The debate around names aside, for us, Bondo is body filler. Like the stuff you put on the car and then you sand it down, for making it smooth before you paint it?
Yes, it's a polyester putty product originally marketed as an automotive body filler. Nowadays, the brand name is used by 3M for a line of American-made products for automotive, marine, and household repairs. This is a good lap, I think, from Andrew Gilliland, because we always talk about the way that the open class is scored. It's not just to be ahead of the other open class drivers, but your outright position scores you points to the open class championship. So to be with the leaders and then, have another couple of cars between you and the next open class driver is the way to score points that could get him back into his championship lead.
Yeah, he's got about 5 spots between himself and Zeus Dalston, but Dalston's actually making a move down the front straight up the inside of Kirill Bodnar, who got a little bit wrong in Murray Bend. Oh, but he breaks early and kind of gives the spot back. I'm a little surprised to see that. Maybe he wasn't quite sure where the outside driver was.
Sean Hayes, not the first, not the last driver to just kick up a little bit of grass on the exit of turn 1. There's just a suspicious little bit of camber there at the apex. Ronnie Coates looking to the inside of turn 2, Griffin's Bend on Zach Burke, and Otis Adams looking to do the same on Michael Chase. A handful of positions change for your leaders. It all costs them a little bit of time, and now Gilliland is going to bump Chase up the hill to make sure that he can stay close with the leaders. It brings Fox and Michael Coates also back into this leading group. Eugenio Polici isn't too far off them as well either if the leaders cost each other time through the corners and don't gain time leapfrogging or bump drafting down the straights.
Well, the real test of Panorama is always how you do through this section of the track. Are you gaining time on the guys ahead, or are you losing time? Everywhere else is all about who's around, what kind of draft you got. But if you can make it work over the top of the mountain, you can make it work anywhere. Following the leaders now, still watching Ronnie Coates now leading, Zach Burke just behind, and Otis Adams running the third. But a fair bit of movement in the top 5. Lots of overtakes on track today. And Zach Burke really cuts it wide and uses the whole track, but you can tell the difference in the run. He's already gaining ground before the draft even really kicks in on Ronnie Coates, this time down the Conrad Straight.
And you'd hope your Conrad was straight, because you're going to have troubles if you bend one. Here we go for the race lead. Zach Burke pulls out on Ronnie Coates to have the inside of the kink and all the way clear as we approach the braking zone. I think there's some serious fuel saving going on there from Ronnie Coates. He goes, okay, you're going for this move, so I'm going to lift off as early as I can to slot in behind you without losing the second place. And that was kind of the strategy that Coates went for. A few of the positions changed back there as Fox and Gilliland both get some good runs. I'm going to have be side by side Fox and Chase through the final corner, Murray's corner.
Tight stuff. We'll see if Fox holds the outside line. He gets the break a little later and holds it and jumps the curb, but gets the power down nicely.
Here's Polici as a few cars have gone side by side, a few corners in a row. Then there were 8 up front. Eugenio Pollicci is absolutely hooked to the wagon. There's 3 seconds from Pollicci to Kirill Bondar, leading the next train as well that has Fike, Hayes. Then Zeus Dalston, second in open class. And this goes all the way through to Jabelski, Tom Athon, and David Starb. Here's Jabelski looking down the inside there for a spot.
Athon's got that double striped look I was talking about. I don't think he's got the V8 though.
The last of the V8s.
Ooh, and really close on the bumper. He actually checks up and throws him a bit offline. Brian Shpelski does on Tom Athon, and Athon's now too wide with David Staub up the hill. Staub holds the outside, but it's going to be the inside in a moment here. And going to be for a few corners in a row. I think this is Staub's position. And he does close the door.
Oh, I love the wall cam.
Oh!
But there's a bit of contact. Tom Athon around the outside is going to be the loser from that. A Stub goes ahead, and Zeus Dalston follows through as well.
Yeah, free spot for Dalston. It was just a little bit of running close and getting a little uncomfortable, I think. A little contact, throws you out wide. Good job, both of them, keeping it clean. It's easy to kill a car when you're in that kind of situation over Skyline. So watch this pack. I'm wondered a little bit about Policci's pace over the mountain. He's dropped back nearly 0.8 seconds, almost out of the draft of the leaders, and in fact doesn't even seem to be trying particularly hard to keep it.
Burke's going for the lead again.
Oh,
and he comes across the nose of Coates, who has to brake. It causes a bit of a checkup. Lincoln Fox goes through to second place. So Coates had to get on the brakes as Burke came across. Then that also checked up, I think it was Otis Adams. And then Lincoln Fox was just on the right line to jump through into second place. You've got Coates pushing Chase now. That's happened a couple times already.
And Chase understands how to make an overtake on the outside. If you're the outside guy, you can always brake a little bit later than the guy on the inside because you got to take that wider arc. And he makes that look easy around the outside.
Yeah,
too wide at the front.
I think Otis let it happen too. It was like, you're on the outside, but you're half a car length ahead, and just rolled out and gave it away. Fox is on the outside. Burke tucks back in. So Lincoln Fox now leads us with your top 3 with a couple car lengths over the rest. Fox runs wide.
Yeah, it was a late bump draft from Zach Burke, I think. Caught Fox out a little bit, but 6th to 1st to 6th again, I think, by the time this is all said and done, maybe even 7th. Gilliland showing some patience and dropping back in behind.
A little out of sorts, a couple corners in a row, not optimal for Lincoln Fox after that.
You gotta clean out the racing suit while you're trying to race after something like that.
So it's still a top 8 at the moment. They're not pulling any extra time on Kirill Bondar, except this group after that contact has dropped David Starb, Zeus Dalston, and Tom Athon. So then there were 4 at the moment. The leaders head down Conrod Straight once again. It's been exciting basically every lap for the leaders at the end of Conrod Straight. There is a massive amount of tow to be had. If Ronnie Coates wants to go for the lead, it'll be about now. And Michael Chase will go with him. And Burke will still try to hold the inside and hold second place.
I think I heard him, all of them almost lifted from the kink all the way to the chase. At least partial throttle, so lots of fuel saving going on in the front group. Makes sense.
You get this many laps into the race, you realise no one's breaking away in the lead, so it might come down to who has the shortest stop, who saves the most fuel in this stint and the next.
So this top group now looking like 7. Eugenio Pellicci still just barely hanging on to the draft in 8th. Kiro Bondar and Jordy Fike connecting for 9th and 10th place to round out the top 10. A little bit of teamwork going on there, I'd say.
We've got the first of what I could call scheduled stops as well within the pit window. Greg Mack from Open Class bringing his green lean racing machine to pit lane. Don't see any damage on it. I think this is just trying to keep it fresh, fill it up at this stage. Normally we see 20 seconds of fuel as a normal in these 45-minute races. He's up to 16 seconds of service, and at 18 seconds he rolls away.
Yeah, I noticed him rolling through Tom Athon after some issues there. I guess he's decided to park it. Coates running the bravest line over the left-hander at at Sulman Park there. Oh, someone touched the wall at Skyline. That was Lincoln Fox touching the inside wall, I think. I heard it so much as...
I heard it too. You've got so many cars that get close to scraping the concrete over that part. Sometimes iRacing exaggerates just a tiny little bit, but sometimes they do have just a little sort of scuff the mirror moment over there as you try to straight line it as best you can, so that while you're braking a lot of speed over there, you've got the minimum amount of turning in as well. So the leapfrog for the race lead will continue. Zach Burke straight past Ronnie Coates, who then also elects to save and tries to hold on to second through all of that. Yep, and your pack is 7 at the moment as Eugenio Pellicci pits. So maybe he just lost touch with him. That also looks like Bondar in as well. Not a super quick pit lane here, 37 miles an hour.
Must have had some of those Australian lawmakers involved.
Well, iRacing has it as 50, but for Supercars Bathurst 1000, it's 40 kilometers an hour. So we're even quicker than I think it actually is, or is these days.
Safety first. Yeah, I know. Good stop, though, from Pellicci, and a short one at that, 15 seconds. That's a real quick one.
He's going to rejoin just ahead of Rui Coimbra. Bondar's going to be behind Rui Coimbra. Remembering that Coimbra stopped after he had that damage on lap 3 or 4. And so Coimbra with 11 seconds of fuel, Bondar with 14, Pellicci with 15. Is there a world where Coimbra can really save, or is he already committed to it's going to have to be a 2-stop?
You'd think he'd have to save, but looking at the lap times, without a draft, he ran a 2:33.7 last time by, which is, I believe, one of the fastest laps of the race, certainly the fastest solo lap of the race. So I don't think he's saving a whole bunch. And he did show a lot of solo pace in qualifying, so maybe he gets back into this. You know, fast first half of the race, fuel saved like a madman through the middle. Be interesting to see.
6 tenths between Zach Burke and Ronnie Coates, first to second place as they exit the cutting to run down Conrod Straight. And I think Ronnie Coates will run down Zach Burke for the lead, but Michael Chase will have a bit of a go from him as well. And we'll see exactly how powerful that toe can be as they really are right to Zach Burke's bumper in the braking zone at the Chase, having closed down, but in fact, third place, having closed down 9 tenths of a second on the race leader to be all over them heading into Murray's Corner. No pit takers from your top 5 here, so no reaction to Pellicci or Bondar. Fike is going to pit, as is Sean Hayes and Brian Jabelski from the next group, though. So almost all of them are in. Zeus Dalston carries on, but 3 on the lane. Triple Eight are normally in the number 1 numbered 1 and 2 numbered garages there.
I like that livery on Jabelski's car there. It's kind of fun.
Oh, you're done with red and white stripes. You're onto orange stripes now?
I don't know. It's not the right color, but there's something to be said for a lightweight sports car with an off-center stripe.
And they're away. And Fike, who was first onto the lane, will be first off the lane, ahead of Jabelski and Hayes. And they're behind Polici, and they're tucking in behind Coimbra as well, with Bondar behind them. So running longer, they've jumped Bondar. And that's pretty good for Fike to be able to just hook on to Rui Coimbra, and Coimbra still might need another stop. So for just the next 10 minutes or so, he can run in Coimbra's draft if he can stick with it.
Yeah. The average of the stops has certainly fallen closer to 16, 17 seconds than Coimbra's 11 and a half. So you got to think that he's going to need some help, but you never know.
Yeah, and with his last lap being a 2-minute 34.1 to Zach Burke's 2-minute 34.4, he's doing the same pace as these leading guys who have all of this tow lifting out in various places as they follow across the top of the mountain, as they almost bang doors. Going in down Conrod Straight, Fox getting that return serve, that side draft off of Otis Adams. They do a far more sensible swap for the lead, rather than doing the Fast and Furious thing where they probably look sideways at each other down the straight.
Oh!
Fox holds on around the outside, and a little bit of door-to-door contact sends Otis Adams around, and he backs it into Marshall Post 22.
Yeah, I don't even know if I'd put that on the door-to-door contact so much as I would put it on the huge curb jump that happened before. Otis got it a little bit wrong on the inside there. And a few cars hit the pit lane. That's Michael Coates and Michael Chates. Michael and Michael coordinating things once again.
It's like a Pokemon evolution. Yeah? Michael Chase becomes Michael Coates, becomes Ronnie Coates. And a couple of other pit callers as well. So Otis Adams in, not particularly surprisingly. It's as good a time as any. And David Starb in as well is going to be the reaction to Fike and Hayes and Jabelski.
Speaking of Ronnie Coates,
lead.
Yeah, he's up the inside of Zach Burke and makes a clean move. Despite all the overtaking that's been going on, these two have actually managed to build a bit of a gap. Even before that stop, they had done enough to break the draft back to 4th place. I believe it was 4th anyway, yeah. Lincoln Fox.
These two have done plenty as far as sort of just leapfrogging it. Every time we've seen them first and second going down into the chase, whoever's in second looks to take the lead, and whoever's in the lead really just rolls out a little bit, lets them have it. And they've done the leapfrog thing a couple of times, and that graphic should say 7th. I don't know, I think. But yeah, Michael Chase and Michael Coates are off the lane, and they are sort of the undercut that Ronnie Coates and Zach Burke need to worry about, not lose too much time now running long, lest you lose position to these drivers that you're still fighting for position, but they've pitted earlier.
And Ronnie Coates absolutely killed it through the dipper that time. I think he made 3/10 through that corner alone. That was really pretty stuff. A little bit of an advantage when you can see the dipper relative to the other guys, but he took full advantage of it. 0.8 of a second gap as they get out onto the Conrod Straight, coming down now, though only a half second at this point.
It's 7 laps to go at the end of this one by the calculations, and we've seen majority of the field pit except for the top 6, where Ronnie Coates, Zach Burke, Lincoln Fox, your top 3 is still out, and so are Andrew Gilliland, Zeus Dalston and Orlando Herald from the open class. And there goes Burke. Fox opts to follow, and Ronnie Coates will be the driver left out you can tell who hasn't practiced their pit entry because the pit lane speed limit doesn't start till the exit of that chicane. And I think Burke got in a little hot and would have lost a bit of time on the in-lap.
Yeah, Gillen learned as well, I think. I saw him slowing down real early and then speeding up and slowing down again, so that cost him a couple seconds on the entry as well. Someone should tell these pit delta guys to start measuring from a point a little before the braking zone for the pit lane, you know?
So Chase and Coates, if they can work together, then they might stay ahead of some of these other drivers. But Burke and Fox are off the lane, and there is Chase and Coates at speed, heading up Conrod Straight and about to slice him up. Michael Coates opts to go with Michael Chase rather than push Zach Burke, and so both of them on this outlap for Zach Burke will get past before turn 2, and I think Lincoln Fox will just be in touch with the slipstream as well.
Watching the sector times on this lap to see. Let's see how it looks as they're coming up the hill. Coates put a 30.2 down in the second sector, and these guys are coming just past the point right here. We'll see how they did. It was a pretty clean merge, and sure enough, a 30.1 for Michael Chase. That means that they're definitely not losing any time.
Right now, Chase to Coates, 34.5 seconds. So if that goes up or goes down, lets you know whether the undercut's working for this group. The potential concern for them here, they have come out behind Orlando Herald, who hasn't stopped yet, so he's under no obligation to get out of the way for these guys as he runs his long fuel strategy in the first stint.
Zeus Dalston is a little further up the road. Actually, far enough up the road that he probably won't be a factor in that, now that I think about it.
So Ronnie Coates is the one to watch. Is this the in-lap for him? He's come out of the chase and he's middle of the road. I want to see his pit entry here, right? Because you see there's a handful of little chicanes here and you've got to carry your speed through till the yellow cones. Okay, decent.
Yeah.
And Chase and Coates have bump drafted past Orlando Herald, no time lost before they got to the chase. In fact, probably just a little bit of slipstream help there as well. I think that worked out as well as it could have for Chase and Coates, while Orlando Herald goes extreme left of track, indicating that he is going to pit in, get out of the way of this fight. Zach Burke and Lincoln Fox can now close up on Chase and Coates. And Ronnie's stop almost done. He's right at the pit exit end. 15 seconds, 16 seconds of fuel, slightly longer than some of the other stops, but he's right at pit exit. There they come around the outside, and they're going to be ahead of him as they go up Conrod Mountain Straight.
I'm glad that you were the first one to screw it up. Good for everyone that way. Michael Chase, though, and Michael Coates certainly made that slightly earlier pit stop work, and the two of them are glued together as they lead the pack effectively. Zeus Dalston, of course, the overall lead as he stretches his stint one lap further than everyone else going around this time.
So the band is back together for the race lead, and it's a top 5 led by Michael Chase. Michael Coates, who has so ably assisted him the last couple of laps. Zach Burke, who led a couple of laps before the stops as well, in 4th. And Ronnie Coates, I don't think he'll be too disappointed about where he's filtered back in, right with the pack in what will become 4th place there. And Lincoln Fox also still in touch. This your leading group going across the top of the mountain.
Yeah, they're doing good stuff. We got that second group too. 7th, 8th, and 9th is Rory Coimbra, Eugenio Polici, and Jordy Fike. Coimbra, we're thinking still probably has to stop, but not a sure thing just yet.
I just haven't seen any signs that Coimbra's been doing the dramatic saving that's going to be necessary. So onto Conrod Straight, we have the leaders, and Coates is going to get the return service from Michael Chase, but Zach Burke doesn't care about any of that. He's going to swoop to the right-hand side of the racing circuit, take the both of them down towards the braking zone, and now he will lead.
Burke really seems to love that kind of bouncy line over the inside of the apex curve. Deeper, they're getting too wide. That's Ronnie Coates holding off Lincoln Fox at the back of the pack there now. Fox,
yeah, there was a bit of a checkup.
Yeah, Fox gets the preferred line, and Coates slides a little bit wide on the marbles, I think. Has to give up the spot with the lack of momentum, and that's a pretty big lack of momentum. There's a couple seconds between them now. Well, maybe not all that, about 7/8 of a second, call it.
So we have Zeus Dalston pitting, which is the last driver to stop in this race. In addition to the pit entry, Andrew Gilliland's stop was also a little bit longer. So he's no longer with these leading group, and he's no longer scoring quite as many points. With him in 11th, Zeus Dalston returning to the race in 14th, Orlando Harrell 16th, and Greg Mack 17th. The race lead, Coates has run it a bit wide, Michael Coates at turn 2. So Zach Burke goes back through to the race lead, and I wonder if there isn't just a fraction of damage on the Brondo It's Got Electrolytes car in second place.
It's important to have electrolytes.
It's what plants crave.
That's what I heard.
They're almost bump drafting over the top of the mountain here with Coates right in behind Zach Burke. Michael Chase right there as well. Lincoln Fox, Ronnie Coates not out of this just yet either as they go through McPhillamy Park.
I think you get a bravery multiplier if you can't see the other guy's license plate when you're going through McPhillamy Park and Skyline. Nicely done. And I like how Coates tracks it out there. That's my preferred line right before I stuff it in the wall usually.
Through Forrest's elbow. And once again, this is where the drama happens. On the long straight, heading downhill, picking up speed, sort of topping out with that aero drag, hitting your sort of terminal velocity, but the car behind doesn't have the same terminal velocity in the toe, and that's what makes Michael Chase look like he's got so much speed. He plays Newton's Cradle, bumping Michael Coates, who bumps Zach Burke, and your top three stay in the same order, and it lets Lincoln Fox close up, look around the outside, braking, touching a little bit of the grass, but going around the outside on Michael Chase. Now you're side by side for the lead as well, so it's too wide, too deep. Ronnie Coates is in 5th, watching on. Rui Coimbra towing that next group up towards the leaders as well. Even if Coimbra needs to stop, he's bringing Jordi Fike and Eugenio Polici back into the picture.
I can't tell you how sick that move from Lincoln Fox was. 2 tires in the dirt, and that car was squirming around a whole bunch under the braking. But Fox...
Again, we're side by side as Fox runs wide off of the corner. It costs time. We're 3 wide as Ronnie Coates is done watching this play out. He's seen Zach Burke and Michael Coates make a breakaway with 4 laps to go. And the side-by-side battling 3 corners in a row has cost a chunk of time to Michael Chase and Lincoln Fox. And Ronnie Coates will not abide it no more.
The dude does not abide. And I think Mr. Coates...
It really ties the pack together.
Michael Coates wants to go...
Where's my slipstream, Lebowski?
We need a Lebowski livery for someone here. Come on. And...
You can see Coates' knows exactly how much bumping he's been doing. It's important that the context is race car driving as well. 0.2 of a second between Burke and Coates and Ronnie Coates. I think he's done with letting those top 2 get away. There's still time for him to bring the rest of them back up towards the top 5 and give the championship leader, Ronnie Coates, another great chance at scoring big points. And his consistency in top 5 point scoring has been key this season as well.
Wow, he just blitzed Skyline. The other 2 were braking before on the level surface, and he showed his pace through there. There's a reason he's got those all red numbers.
Red numbers, white knuckles, a bit wide at the elbow. Not perfect, though, which means he's going to have to dance with Michael Chase down the hill. Just 1.1 seconds off the back of Michael Coates. Not with a great run for Ronnie. And it means he's just out of the toe, and he needs to either get bumped, get leapfrogged, work something out here, and he's going to get the bump as they go side by side for the race lead. Michael Coates and Zach Burke into the chase. And Coates looks like he maybe holds on. Zach Burke either pulled out of it or it was all sorted a little bit before that, because it's relatively polite for first and second, and there is just a little bit of manners now, third, fourth, and fifth. Not sure how long that will last as again Fox looks around the outside, runs it way deep, out wide, no grip, out across the grass.
Oof.
Brave but perhaps foolish from Lincoln Fox. Rui Coimbra pits as we probably expected. It sends Jordy Fike and Eugenio Polici through to fifth and sixth as they go past Fox.
Yeah, Fox has been ambitious on the outside. He can break a little later when you got the outside line, but you can't break that much later. And tires and Armco, and that's going to cost a whole bunch, unfortunately. Luckily, he doesn't have to pay for the Armco in the sim.
Our leaders, and the bravery of Ronnie Coates and the pace that he has in store across the top of the mountain means that they haven't been able to break away. So despite all of that, Ronnie Coates, we're going to ride on board across the top of the mountain by special request, I think, and see exactly how he's doing this.
Yeah, he's been kind of badass through here. I figured we needed to get a look at that. Really confident through the early part. Stays a little wide at this apex. There's that bump on the inside that you don't want to hit. Rides the right-hand side, but stays off the curb so that he can set himself up nicely up the hill. Just touches the inside curb again. These momentum cars, you don't need necessarily to get them all the way out, and you'll see that on the Exodus Skyline here. This is where he's made some time, but I don't think he's going to push it quite as hard this time, because he didn't need to close the gap. But through the dipper, he's been pretty mega as well. Gets a nice, really clean line, tighter than everyone else through there.
I know it's their big talking point, and I'm parroting it, but that's where the laser scanned tracks really shine on iRacing. There's places like the dipper there where it's the exact sort of drop in the road, exactly where it is, where the car is like, it's got a bit of grip and then it gets loose and then it grips up again, and exactly what you do with your throttle inputs, with your steering when the car, is light and then grips up, is how guys like Ronnie Coates show their mastery through a corner like that. Zach Burke is going to pull out of the slipstream, go for the race lead. 3 minutes 30 left on the clock, and Michael Coates is going to drop 1, 2, 3 spots with 2 laps to go.
Ronnie Coates jumped the curb at the chase, right on the rear bumper of Zach Burke now. Was that a slowdown for Coates, or just a fuel saving?
There might be a fuel thing going on here.
He's been up there, but he didn't have that short of a stop, did Coates? 16.2. Other guys at the front had 16.5, 16.2, so either way.
Maybe he's just going to save this lap, hit the number so that he doesn't need to even think about it on the final lap, coming down to the chase, not going to have to lift. Maybe that's the strategy. Here's 5th, 6th, and 7th. Really solid performance from Jordy Fike and Eugenio Polici here, where they haven't let the leaders get away. Their pace has been pretty consistent. And you have Otis Adams, Sean Hayes, Andrew Gilliland, Brian Chapelski. Rui Coimbra has come back in 14th place. There's still a chance that he could catch Zeus Darlston for 13th, but I don't think he's going to catch Kirill Bonda for 12th.
I think it's worth shouting out that Jordy Fike running 5th. He's up 8 spots since the start of the race, so definitely doing the most overtakes so far. We'll see if he holds all the way to the line, and we'll watch this lead group because, as we've seen, the action does not stop around Bathurst here. Gotta say, it's gotta be my favorite GT3 only endurance race of the year.
It's good. I think I've been 4 Bathurst 12 hours in a row, keeping my streak going. Scoggy the Bear's been to 3 in a row. So we'll keep that number up as well. This is your top 4. It's not the final lap just yet, but everyone's, setting their pieces, thinking about where do I want to be come the final lap? Because of course you have that massive toe down Conrod Straight here and into the big braking zone at the chase. But I think on a final lap, you could also stay close enough to send a move into the final corner, the 90-degree left-hander at Murray's as well. So you're thinking ahead. Where do I want to be? The answer is either leading by 5 seconds or maybe in second or third. So here comes Ronnie Coates and Michael Chase. Big head of steam barreling down towards Zach Burke, the race leader. Michael Coates choosing still to sit 3-4 car lengths off the back of this. Ronnie Coates looking down the inside for the race lead on the penultimate lap, parking it in front of Zach Burke, bringing the whole pack together. 4 MX-5s in 4 MX-5 lengths as we're going to go to start the final lap of the race.
Good stuff, and Michael Coates was timing it up on the Conrod Straight, so I bet you he'll be planning to move into the chase as well.
6.2 kilometers to go. 1 lap of Mount Panorama Bathurst. Nothing covers your top 4, and these MX-5s draft and slipstream so close on the long straights of Mount Panorama. They can follow close through the twisty street circuit, the committed street circuit over the top of the mountain where the concrete walls define the track limits. Zach Burke in second is pushing Ronnie Coates up the hill. Ronnie Coates is staying glued to the right-hand side of the track until about now. He doesn't want to offer anyone the opportunity to outbreak him down the inside at Griffin's Bend Turn 2. Ronnie Coates will opt to stay out front in the lead of this one.
Brave spot to be, but with the pace differential he's showing over the mountain, he might be able to make this work. Let's see if he can do it.
And as we're on the final lap, the open class leader is Andrew Gilliland in 10th outright. Still a chance he could make some positions in that group on Zeus Dalston, who is in 12th. Second in the open class. So it's definitely still some to play out for these open class drivers. You see Andrew Gilliland, white, blue and red stripe in the RC Sales car in that pack, and it is pack racing on the mountain. 4 cars for the lead, 3 cars for 5th, 4 cars for 8th place, all to be decided on the breaks into the chase and Murray's Corner at the end of this one. So committed and so strong over the top of the mountain has been Ronnie Coates, and as he leads them, he can show that pace through the dipper and towards the elbow, but there is no shaking Zach Burke, Michael Chase and Michael Coates, who are right in his toe, heading down Conrod Straight for the last time. 5 car lengths back for Zach Burke, backs it up a little bit in the elbow to try to get a run. Does he get a clean run at Ronnie Coates? Will Michael Chase bump him, or will Michael Chase try to go from third to the lead, to the right-hand side, to the left-hand side? Ronnie Coates is snaking them, trying to break the toe, hoping they won't get close enough, but it's a massive freight train of speed for Zach Burke as he jumps the curb, looks around the outside, has his nose in front, but it is the outside of the chase and he needs to stay in there. They all check up. Too wide, too deep, bit of contact through there. Ronnie Coates leads them out of the chase to Murray's Corner, where he will defend the inside line with his life. No one's close enough to dive down there despite Zach Burke's best effort, and he rubs the bumper, but out the final corner, Ronnie Coates takes the win at Mount Panorama from Burke, from Chase, from Coates. Eugenio Pellicci has been around. Geordie Fike leads Lincoln Fox to the line. As Pellicci drops a whole bunch of spots, Andrew Gilliland goes to 9th outright to win open class.
Yeah, Pellicci will be kicking himself as he lost a few getting loose on the exit of the chase and through the last lap. Gilliland gets 9th, but that isn't quite what he was hoping for after that strong start. Zeus Dalston will take 12th, so 3 spots separate them, 3 spots worth of critical points. Ree Coimbra comes back from the bad incident early on to get 13th place. David Staub 14th, and Kirill Bondar, who had to take a fuel stop on the very last lap, is going to be our final lead lap finisher. No, I take that back. There's a couple more behind him. Final pro class finisher is Kirill. Orlando Harrell takes the final turn, and that open class points lead has got to be under threat. You're thinking Greg Mack is going to finish 4th in open class as he comes to the line this time by.
Yeah, a big haul of points for Gilliland, and he's done that a couple races in a row now at this point of the season, with a chunk of races still to run. Well, I reckon they should keep this place. I reckon it's a half-decent racetrack.
Yeah, I'd get behind that. Heck, they should probably run 2 big races here a year.
I think one early in the year for GT3s and then one later in the year for like imported little,
Pseudo
touring
GT3s.
cars.
Yeah.
Ronnie Coates takes the race win in really dramatic, challenging fashion, some contact on the final lap, but all fair racing from our perspective, and he extends his championship lead for Team Not a Team. He was with Zach Burke, Michael Chase, and Michael Coates in a great 4-way tussle for the victory there on the final lap. Geordie Fike leading the second pack, managed to pick up a few more scraps, and he ended up to 5th place ahead of Lincoln Fox. Then Otis Adams led the next with Sean Hayes, Andrew Gilliland, Eugenio Polici, and Brian Jabalski in tow. Andrew Gilliland with the blue stripe under the number. Open class winner there, and as we said, a great points haul for him, as his next rival in class was 12th, Zeus Dalston. 2 pit stops after basically spinning out of the lead early on for Rui Coimbra, gives him 13th place. David Starb in 14th, and Kirill Bonda 15th. Then Orlando Herald, Greg Mack, the last finishers. Tom Aiton with a bit of damage as he went side by side with David Starb across the top of the mountain. He opted to park it. And Charles Vaccaro, unfortunately, didn't join us at the mountain today. Well, they're standing by. Let's go to open class first. Andrew Gilliland, another race, another open class win for you, and a decent bag of points in the last couple of run of races.
Yeah, I'm glad to be winning up here again, but it's been a great past 2 races, obviously finishing P6, I believe, at Road America last week, and now P10 here at Bathurst. But it's just been, like you said, a huge bag of points, and it's awesome to be able to capitalize on these top upfront finishes.
You're too young for a shoey, but maybe you can have a lemonade or something out of your boot. That's how the crowd will peer pressure you to celebrate here.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I will enjoy myself a lemonade.
And again, for the open class, we always think about, your outright position is scoring you points. So you do need to work with these pro drivers. And we saw a lot of, packs all through the race. You were part of this group in the second half that was all pro drivers around you. How do you navigate that to stay clean, but also maximize your own result?
I mean, I just try to stay in the draft and, not necessarily stay out of their way, but I'm not trying to make huge moves, obviously, knowing that I am in the lead of my class and I may or may not need those extra points. But at most, I just try to keep it clean. I just try to stay close to everybody, yet not, getting into contact, just trying to finish the race where I am.
Good race, despite maybe a slightly longer pit stop than you needed?
Yeah, so while I was in the pits, I accidentally unchecked my begin fueling, so I had to stop for a little bit longer and fuel that extra little bit just so I wouldn't be underfueled for the finish.
You made the best of it. You raced clean, and it can be a tough circuit to do that. Well done.
Yeah, thank you.
Open class winner Andrew Gilliland joining us there. Is Ronnie Coates kicking around somewhere?
I think he's off celebrating another strong performance, another victory this season, and really kind of showing himself to be the class of the field. I think this is, sure enough, the 3rd race win for him this season. And there's been more than 1, 2, 3 other podiums for him, I'd say.
Yeah, and regrettably, we missed interviewing him after one of his wins earlier in the season. We missed Ronnie Coates, so it's good to have him after a win this time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out my push to talk, just like Michael last week. I don't ever have one set up, so Anyway, yeah, that was a great race. I didn't get any practice, and I was like racing all the way home, trying to get in front of the computers. Yeah, good finish in that, and a little rub in there at the end, which I wish it wouldn't have been, but hey, it turned out great.
Well, it turned out really well for you. It looked like maybe the qualifying, after qualifying, that you were going to have a little bit of difficulty, 8/10 off the pole, but you sure had the race pace to back it up.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not real great at jumping in cold. Like I literally want like an hour of doing laps, and so yeah, I just tried not to wreck it really, and I was actually pretty happy to be where I was at, which is just trying to kind of take it easy.
And Team Not a Team locking up another one. He said he didn't get much practice on the track this week.
Oh, I got a little bit yesterday, but I kind of refer more just to today. Like I said, I need a little warm up time before I'm comfortable.
Well, makes sense. I was going to say it's a great finish for you, but it's got to be a real disappointment. What with how your second place in the Mr. Clean stakes or stats leading up to this race had to spend 5 whole incidence points on this one.
Oh, I know. I think I got 4 of them on that little deal with Zach right there. So yeah, that was kind of a disappointing, but yeah, it is what it is. It was a good race. I think the win was probably more fun than getting clean.
I'd have to agree with you on that one. Really quality drive out there. Any moments that really stand out to you other than that last lap?
Well, I'd say the biggest shout out to everybody that there wasn't a big wreck. This track usually ends up having everybody all wadded up and coming to a stop. It's such a tight track through the mountains up there, and really, you can't, once you get in the mountains, you don't really want to pass, so you just follow. And anyway, everybody kept it real cool, and yeah, that was much appreciated.
That was a really awesome race. Really impressive stuff out there. Hope you're looking forward to the next one. What do you think? You need 1 more win, 2 more wins to lock up the championship this year?
Oh boy, I don't know. Yeah, it's still pretty close. I think there's a couple of guys that could still challenge for it once you put the drop weeks in there. I don't even remember. I think it's a new track next week, isn't it? I'm not even sure what it is.
Schedule says Misano, but I believe that means Magello. On account of Misano isn't on iRacing.
Well, I knew there was one coming up that I actually had to download. I downloaded it a couple of weeks ago, but I haven't even looked at it yet. So I'm thinking it's a new track. So I guess I'll have to look at that.
Well, David Haynes, we get to buy a new racetrack next week. They got Misano on the service now.
Okay.
Well, Ronnie, I don't know if you can hear it, but there's an Australian in the booth with me screaming about how you need to do a shoey. So you better go and get yourself one before you go off to bed tonight.
How about a simulated shoey? I don't think I'm going to go for that.
That makes sense. It's simulated win.
Yeah, perfect. Hey, thanks a lot, guys. It was fun as always, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers.
We go. Ronnie Coates joining us after his victory at the mountain. Took the big call, deciding, no, I'm going to lead this whole final lap. I'm not giving up any track position. I'll get my elbows out and I'll trust my speed. He positioned himself well. He raced well. Everyone raced clean up front. And it was a simply spectacular final couple of laps there, with Ronnie Coates coming away with the Pro Class victory, Andrew Gilliland bagging the Open Class win and more great points, and sees him rocketing up the order in that championship. We're broadcasting Spec-5 World Tour again next week from in Italy, and we look forward to you joining us for that one on HJBC. All from me, David Haynes, and Devin Peters, and Michael Derby from Mount Panorama Bathurst. We hope you've enjoyed it.